Welcome, one and all, and you, to Take 5 an Inventory series, where we communicate the healthcare news of the day to you from a safe distance. I'm Alex Diamond, and I'm joined today by Hayes Waldrop of the Council of Supply Chain Executives. I wanted to know, based on his experience talking to providers across the country, how the era of Zoom meetings and remote work is changing communication within hospitals and without.
Most hospitals, they're going to huddle daily, and typically they try to huddle, if it's a morning shift before noon, everybody gets together with their department, with their group. That's going to stay, because in order to treat patients, you got to be there. But the kind of the departments, the supply chain, the folks behind the scenes, I know many of them are going to stay remote. They can. I know HCA's supply chain, which is located here in Nashville, they had roughly 200 folks, I think, in the Nashville office. They all went remote, and they went remote in about, I think it was 3 or 4 days, and they were up and running. And he says they became more productive remote. And he goes, now there's discussions about when do they come back? Do they come back? How many come back? They're doing everything from revenue cycle, par levels, all those type of things, and they can do it remotely and do it well. I know in the revenue cycle, that whole business of revenue cycle for hospitals, obviously it's either done internally or they outsource that to somebody else. Many hospital systems were reluctant to outsource it, particularly to outsource offshore, which is where most of that went. Now, because their own employees are outsourced, if you will, they're remote, and they're finding, you know what, we're doing it. We're working together pretty well. They're much more open to offshoring their outsourcing, if you will. And I know that for a fact. That's come up. It's every system's going to be a little different, but I do think they're more inclined to outsource things than they were before because they're seeing that it works. What's going to happen moving forward, particularly as it relates to technology and hospitals, is primarily hospitals are not going to be meeting sales reps on the front end, on the preliminary side of things. I think what's going to happen is it's all going to be done virtually because many of these hospital execs right now on the supply chain and pharmacy as well, they're still at home. And many of them are going to remain at home. So clearly they're not going to meet sales reps there. I deal with several hospital executives on the CEO side, C-suite, and they have very robust video capabilities, rooms, kind of like a Zoom room, right? That they're doing weekly video conferencing with their staff. I know that, clearly when they're all remote, they're doing, meetings, staff meetings remote. And I know it's going to be going toward the supplier community as well. It only makes sense. And so, yeah, that's they've definitely have embraced that. And I think that's here to stay. I absolutely think that's here to stay. And frankly, I've heard a lot of companies are embracing that as well. There's a company I deal with. They've got 1,000 employees here in the U.S., and he said he expects their travel to be cut in about 80% for 2021, because he goes, we will not be flying everywhere just for a moment's notice. We are going to try to do everything virtual we possibly can because now the hospitals are accustomed to it. And he goes, it makes a ton of financial sense from his perspective. So I do believe companies need to be really, really well tuned in their virtual presentation and have good technology, have maybe a standard, backdrops and those type of things that they need to be good at. In presenting.
That's this week's 5 Minutes. Listen again next week for me picking Hayes Waldrop's brain again about the growing power of the supply chain professional. Take 5 is a production of Z5 Inventory. To see all of our sources and resources for this episode and more, visit z5inventory.com. That's the letter Z, the number 5, and the word inventory.com.